Before we start, if you've ever stared at your screen, frozen between fear and hope, wondering why you can't stop trading even when it hurts, then this series was made for you. Subscribe to Mindwired Trader. Not for strategy, but for clarity. Because in trading, what you don't see always costs the most. You think the cost of trading is measured in dollars, in red candles, in the balance that slips away after one bad decision. But that's just the surface. The real cost, the one that breaks traders, is invisible. It's in the hours you can't get back. The meals you skip because the market's about to move. The friends you stop replying to because they don't understand. The slow erosion of peace that happens, tick by tick, trade by trade. At first, trading feels like freedom. You tell yourself, this is it, my escape from the system, my path to independence. And for a while, it feels true. You study hard, wake up early, build discipline, and find your rhythm. You start winning, and the charts start speaking your language. But somewhere along the way, something shifts. You don't notice it at first. Maybe it's just staying up a little later than usual. Checking charts one more time before bed. Then two more. Then a habit. Then an obsession. You start thinking in percentages. Not just with trades, but with life. Every conversation becomes a calculation of opportunity cost. Every rest day feels like missed potential. You stop celebrating small wins because they're not big enough. The screen becomes your mirror. Every candle, a reflection of your emotional state. Every loss, a judgment. Every win, a momentary relief, not joy, just relief. That's when the market starts taking more than money. It starts taking space, in your thoughts, in your relationships, in your sense of self. And the scariest part? You don't even realize it's happening. One day, you sit in front of your charts. Same desk, same setup, same glowing screen. But something feels off. You're not trading to win anymore. You're trading to prove something. That you're capable. That you're not the failure that last week's losses whispered you were. You start linking performance to identity. If you win, you feel worthy. If you lose, you start to disappear. Your trading results become your personality. And when the market takes from you, it doesn't just take your balance. It takes your belief. You tell yourself, if I can just get back to break even, I'll feel okay again. But break even isn't a number. It's a mirage. Because what you're really trying to break even with is yourself. You want to fix the regret, the shame, the ego. But the more you try, the deeper you dig. And that's the paradox of control. The harder you fight to control the market, the more it controls you. It's not the losses that break you. It's the quiet moments after them. That heavy silence between candles. The way your chest tightens when the market's closed. Because you don't know who you are without it. You open old trades just to feel something. You scroll through charts that aren't even moving. Like a gambler staring at a dead slot machine. Hoping maybe this time it'll light up again. There's a kind of loneliness in that silence. Not the loneliness of being alone, but of being surrounded by noise that no longer fills you. Every ping of a notification, every alert, feels like a small electric jolt of meaning. Until it doesn't. You start questioning not the market, but your own purpose inside it. What am I even chasing anymore? The market takes your money. But it also takes your stillness. Your ability to be without needing to do. Every moment that could have been rest turns into a search for the next setup. Every quiet evening becomes a replay of what if. You think it's ambition. But it's addiction disguised as productivity. You convince yourself you're improving. Because you're always doing. But in truth, you're only running from stillness. Because stillness feels like failure. And the market rewards that behavior. For a while. It feeds your ego just enough to keep you chasing. A good trade here, a small win there. Like breadcrumbs leading deeper into the forest. Until one day, you realize you're lost. Not financially, emotionally. Spiritually. You've built a life around control. And it's crumbling under the weight of uncertainty. But here's the thing. Uncertainty was never your enemy. It was your teacher. It was the only truth the market ever offered. And you spent years trying to fight it. When you finally stop. When the exhaustion catches up. You start to see the truth you've been avoiding. Control was never the goal. It was a distraction. The goal was freedom. And freedom requires letting go. You look at your screen differently now. Not as a battlefield. But as a mirror. Every candle becomes a reflection of your state of mind. Every hesitation, every rush of greed or fear. You start to see it as feedback. The market never punished you. It only mirrored your resistance. And for the first time, you stop fighting the mirror. You just watch. You observe. You breathe. And that's when something shifts again. But this time, for good. The market doesn't demand your control. It demands your attention. In the next segment, we'll explore what happens when that attention becomes obsession. When discipline collapses into chaos. And the spiral begins. It always starts small. A small loss. A missed opportunity. A single candle that moved against you when it shouldn't have. You shrug it off. You tell yourself, it's just variance. You've said that before, 1,000 times. But this time, something feels different. This time, the loss lingers. You stare at it longer than usual. You replay it in your head while brushing your teeth. While scrolling your phone. While lying in bed with your eyes open, staring into the dark. It's not the trade that hurts. It's what it represents. Failure. A reminder that you're not in control. That maybe, you never were. And that thought. That single seed of doubt. Is where the spiral begins. Stage 1, denial. At first, you deny it. You tell yourself it's just an off day. You'll make it back tomorrow. You always do. You increase your size. You chase the loss, but you call it recovery. You trade faster, more aggressively. The market moves, and so do you, without hesitation, without thought. And when it doesn't go your way, you double down. Not just with your money, but with your identity. You can't lose, because losing means you're wrong. And being wrong feels unbearable. So you fight harder. You keep pushing, keep controlling, keep trying. But deep down, you already know. You're no longer trading the market. You're trading your own denial. Stage 2, frustration. Then comes frustration. You start asking questions like, why does this always happen to me? Why do I always give it back? You start tweaking your system. You remove indicators, add new ones. You look for hidden patterns in randomness. You tell yourself you're adapting, evolving. But really, you're just avoiding. Avoiding the truth that hurts most. You're addicted to control. You can't stand the idea that something outside of you can decide your outcome. So you keep tinkering. You keep searching for a version of the market that will finally behave the way you want it to. But every time you change your strategy, you move further from yourself. And the further you go, the harder it is to come back. Stage 3, Obsession. The frustration grows into obsession. You start waking up earlier, sleeping later, checking charts even when they're closed. You stop seeing setups. You see revenge opportunities. You stop managing risk. You manage emotion. And not very well. Your trading desk becomes a battlefield. Your keyboard a weapon. Your own thoughts, the enemy. You've forgotten that trading is supposed to be analysis and patience. Now it's reactivity and survival. Every candle feels personal. Every move against you feels like an insult. You start whispering to the chart. Come on, move, just a little bit. It's irrational. But it's real. The line between you and the market blurs. Until you can't tell the difference between a bad trade and a bad day. And when everything starts to feel the same, you're no longer trading. You're spiraling. Stage 4, Collapse. At some point, your energy runs out. You've analyzed everything, except yourself. You sit there. Eyes burning. Charts frozen on the screen. Hands trembling slightly over the mouse. You know you should stop. You know you need to step away. But you don't. Because stopping feels like surrender. And surrender feels like defeat. You place another trade. Not because it's good. But because it's something to do. You don't want profit anymore. You just want relief. A temporary escape from the noise in your head. You click buy. You click sell. You click again. You lose. You click again. It's mechanical now. You're not trading with intention. You're trading with emotion. Blindly, desperately, like a drowning man gasping for air. And just like that, you're caught, not in the market's volatility, but in your own. The spiral tightens. And the tighter it gets, the quieter the world becomes. Stage 5, the silence. Then it happens. That moment when the spiral stops spinning. Not because you escaped it, but because it broke you. The screen still glows in front of you. But it feels distant. Like a movie you're no longer a part of. Your account is smaller. Your heart is heavy. Your thoughts are numb. You close your charts. For the first time in weeks. There's no sound. No ticking price feed. No notification. No movement. Just silence. And in that silence, you realize something terrifying. You don't know who you are. Without the noise. You built your identity around the illusion of control. And now that it's gone, you feel empty. You've become addicted not to profit, but to struggle. You needed the chaos to feel alive. Now, without it, you feel lost. That's when it hits you. You didn't fall into the spiral. You built it. Candle by candle. Trade by trade. Rationalization by rationalization. And now, you're sitting inside it. Wondering if you can ever climb out. The moment of clarity. But here's the thing about spirals. They don't just pull downward. They also pull inward. Every collapse brings you closer to the truth. To the center of yourself. Because at the core of the spiral, there's stillness. There's awareness. And if you can reach that center, if you can sit with the silence long enough to feel it, you'll realize something powerful. You were never fighting the market. You were fighting your own fear of uncertainty. You weren't losing trades. You were losing yourself. And that's the cost of control. Not the money. Not the time. But the disconnection from your own peace. Once you see that, the spiral starts to slow. The chaos starts to fade. And for the first time in a long time, you breathe. Not the breath of victory, but the breath of surrender. The spiral ends where self-awareness begins. If this episode spoke to you, because the next chapter isn't about breaking down. It's about breaking through. The screen glows in front of you. Familiar. Cold. Numbers move, charts breathe, candles form. But this time, something feels different. You're not watching the market anymore. You're watching yourself. Your reflection hides in the black glass between candles. Tired eyes. Shallow breath. A hint of tension that never leaves your shoulders. It's quiet now. Too quiet. You move the mouse, zoom in, zoom out. But the silence remains. It's not the kind of silence that calms you. It's the kind that exposes you. You remember how it started. The excitement. The adrenaline rush of your first win. The pride of being right. And then, the losses. The endless pursuit of being right again. You thought trading was about predicting the market. But really, it was about proving something. Every trade became a mirror of emotion. Greed. Fear. Ego. Each candle, a snapshot of your mental state. The longer you traded, the clearer the reflection became. The market wasn't random. It was responsive. It moved like a mirror reacting to your thoughts. A perfect reflection of your patience or your lack of it. You start to see patterns. Not just in price, but in yourself. You realize how every time you felt the urge to force a trade, it wasn't because the setup was right. It was because you couldn't sit with uncertainty. You realize that every loss that hurt too much wasn't about the money. It was about identity. Losing made you feel invisible. Winning made you feel seen. You weren't trading charts. You were trading for self-approval. And the market? It simply played along. Not to punish you, but to show you. The realization hits harder than any loss ever did. You weren't addicted to trading. You were addicted to control. To the illusion that if you just analyzed enough, worked hard enough, disciplined yourself enough, you could make the chaos obey. But chaos doesn't obey. It reveals. Every moment you tried to force the market to behave, it was revealing your fear of surrender. Every time you blamed volatility, you were avoiding stillness. Every time you doubled down, you were trying to silence the voice that whispered, "You're not in control." You lean back in your chair. The charts blur. Your thoughts slow. It's almost unsettling to see so clearly what you've been running from. It wasn't the market you were afraid of losing to. It was yourself. Your expectations. Your ego. Your image of what a good trader should look like. You built a persona out of discipline and control. But behind it, there was fear. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of being wrong. Fear of silence. You wanted mastery. But what you really wanted was permission to not feel lost. The mirror doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't comfort you. It shows you, candle by candle, the truth you keep avoiding. You notice how your breath changes when the price moves against you. How your eyes tighten when you see a red candle. How your hand hovers over the mouse. Half instinct, half desperation. You realize It's not about the market at all. It's about the nervous system you bring into it. The market is neutral. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't reward effort. It rewards alignment. And you? You've been fighting alignment for years. You've been trying to impose your will on something that only responds to awareness. You close your eyes. For a moment, the noise fades completely. And in that silence, you finally understand what the market has been saying all along. I am not your enemy. I am your reflection. Every spike in emotion, every surge of greed, every moment of hesitation, it all points back to one thing: your inner state. You see how your best trades always came when you weren't chasing, when you weren't trying to control, when you were calm. That calm wasn't luck. It was alignment. It was clarity disguised as detachment. You open your eyes again. The charts haven't changed. But you have. You don't feel the same pull to act, to fix, to chase. You just observe. You let the candles move without your interference. You watch your thoughts rise and fall. Like price waves you no longer need to surf. There's a strange beauty in that stillness. A kind of strength that comes from doing nothing. You realize you don't need to control the market to trade it well. You just need to control your response to it. You remember something you once read. A quote you dismissed at the time. The market is a place where human emotion meets uncertainty. Now it makes sense. It's not about eliminating emotion. It's about understanding it. You can't remove fear. You can only recognize it. You can't eliminate greed. You can only observe its arrival. Because when you observe, you don't react. And when you don't react, you see clearly. That's when the mirror shifts. From reflection to revelation. You see the timeline of your trading journey. Not as a series of wins and losses, but as a psychological record. Each phase: denial, frustration, obsession, collapse, wasn't failure. It was feedback. Every loss had meaning. Every mistake was a message. You just weren't ready to hear it until now. And now that you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't return to blind reaction, to chasing illusions of control. Because awareness changes everything. The mirror doesn't break once you see it. It becomes your guide. You sit quietly. No rush to trade. No urge to fix anything. Just reflection. Just breathing. And for the first time, the market feels gentle. You realize the lesson isn't about profit or loss. It's about presence. The market was never trying to destroy you. It was trying to wake you up. And now, you are awake. You whisper quietly. Not to the market, but to yourself. I see it now. In the next and final segment, we move beyond the mirror to what comes after awareness. Acceptance. You don't remember when it started. The silence. The ease. The absence of resistance. It wasn't sudden. It was like waking up slowly. After years of fighting dreams that felt real. The charts still move. The candles still flicker. But they no longer define you. You've stopped trying to predict. You've stopped trying to prove. You simply observe. And in that observation, something soft begins to emerge. Peace. Not the kind you chase, but the kind that was always there, hidden beneath noise and tension. You realize now. Acceptance isn't weakness. It's clarity. It's the moment when you stop demanding the market to behave according to your expectations and start aligning with its rhythm. You stop asking, "What will the market do next?" and instead whisper, "What am I feeling now?" Because you've seen enough to know. Your state shapes your perception. And your perception shapes your decision. Every bad entry, every emotional exit. They were never mistakes of logic. They were mistakes of presence. You were absent. Lost in thought. Lost in fear. Lost in the need to be right. Now you're just here. Fully. The market ticks. Your eyes follow. But your mind stays still. For the first time, you trade without fear. Not because you've eliminated it, but because you've made peace with it. You understand fear has a purpose. It protects, it signals. It's only toxic when you fight it. You feel it rise. You nod to it. And it fades. That's acceptance. The market doesn't change. You do. And somehow, that's enough. You remember the version of yourself that used to believe mastery meant control. You can almost see him. Tense shoulders, clenched jaw. Staring at screens like they held salvation. You don't judge him anymore. He was doing his best. With what he knew. He thought control was safety. He didn't know that real safety comes from surrender. Not giving up. But giving in to what is. The price moves. The candle forms. The trade plays out. And you remain still. Not frozen. But fluid. You react when needed. You rest when not. It's not laziness. It's rhythm. The rhythm of acceptance. You start to see how this state ripples beyond trading. You no longer argue with time. You no longer chase perfection. You stop forcing outcomes. In charts, in people, in life. You let things unfold. And strangely, that's when things begin to flow in your favor. Because the moment you stop fighting for control, you open space for alignment. You realize your greatest edge was never strategy. It was state of mind. You see traders losing not because they're wrong, but because they're afraid. You see others winning not because they're lucky, but because they're calm. The market doesn't reward brilliance. It rewards balance. And you? You've finally found it. Now, trading feels like meditation. The screen isn't a battlefield. It's a reflection pool. Each candle a breath. Each tick a heartbeat. You enter a trade like a monk lights a candle. Not for profit. But for presence. You let the process unfold. You detach from the result. You trust the rhythm. And when the trade ends, win or lose, you close the chart with gratitude. Not because it paid you, but because it taught you. You think back to all those years chasing mastery. And realize it wasn't wasted. Every obsession, every failure, every breakdown. They were all part of the lesson. You couldn't have arrived here without first getting lost there. Pain was the teacher. Silence was the classroom. Awareness was the graduation. Now, you carry that awareness into every breath, every chart, every decision. You understand that control isn't something you hold. It's something you release. Because when you let go, you make room for intuition, for flow, for peace. Outside, the world keeps moving. Markets open, trends shift, noise continues. But inside, it's still. You sit quietly. Hood pulled low. The glow of the screen washing over your face. The reflection stares back at you. Faceless, timeless. It doesn't ask for control. It doesn't need to win. It just is. You smile softly. For the first time. The reflection smiles back. You whisper to yourself. Not as a traitor. Not as a persona. But as consciousness itself. I am not the market. I am the observer. You finally understand what all the losses were for. They weren't punishment. They were purification. Every time the market took something from you, it was removing a layer of illusion. Control. Ego. Attachment. Now what remains is simplicity. Awareness. Presence. Peace. The charts fade to black. The glow dims. You close your laptop. The sound of your own breath fills the room. It's over. But not in the way endings usually are. This one feels different. This one feels complete. You didn't conquer the market. You didn't lose to it either. You simply became one with it. That's the cost of control. You trade illusion for truth. And truth is freedom. When you stop trying to control, you begin to understand. When you stop trying to predict, you start to see. The market was never chaos. It was always a mirror, waiting for you to become still enough to recognize your reflection. This is acceptance. This is mastery.